Hello and welcome everyone. This is your astrology forecast for new moon in Capricorn that is happening on the 30th of December, so almost on New Year's Eve. So we are ending the year with the new moon in Capricorn, and this is very good because we are about to have some really deep insights about efforts, work, maturity, discipline, structures, responsibilities, limitations, and all the Capricornian and Saturnian themes that are going to bring us into something completely different and to close one whole chapter of our life and to show us something that could be very surprising in a positive way, something we couldn't see coming, but in a good way. These could be very positive surprises, but of course with many challenges. And this one is happening at 9 degrees of Capricorn. So we have the sun and the moon together in Capricorn on the 9th degree. So all of us who have some personal planets around 9 degrees of Capricorn, Cancer, Aries or Libra will feel this the most. And it depends, of course, in which house it's happening for you. That area of your life will be affected mostly, but we are going to go through some major themes of this new moon in Capricorn and about, of course, the winter solstice that is always happening around the 20th, 21st or 22nd of December before the Christian Christmas on the 25th of December. And of course you are going to see that these are all actually symbols that are left for us to remember the cosmical truth, the universal truth, and to understand the universal language, the language of symbols, and not to understand things literally, but to think a little bit linearly, to go into the depth of linear thinking. And this new moon in Capricorn will show us a lot about our maturity or immaturity and our ability to be a grown-up, to be an adult, to be a parent to ourselves, and to truly grow up regardless of how old we are. To see, are we reacting in the same way as we always did? Are we projecting in the same way as we always did, or what has changed? Are we ending up in the same scenarios, in the same patterns, and are we stuck in complaining games? Because Saturn and Capricorn is a lot about complaining and worst case scenarios. And we are going to see, how are we complaining? We don't have to complain to others, but we can complain generally in our life, in our thoughts. We are somehow complaining is very attractive, and people feel like they are given some kind of great attention when they are complaining, but this is very seducing and it's not constructive. So we are going to be faced with how are we complaining and how are we putting up with those who are always complaining. And this is going to be a big lesson for many of us. And this energy is asking us to turn inward. We have Mars retrograde in Leo, and Mars retrograde, Mars part in us is our active energy. When we it's the energy of us waking up in the morning and getting up from the bed. It's the energy of doing something, of initiating things, of being active, being action oriented, being proactive. And when Mars is retrograde, we cannot really do things in the way we are used to do them. We cannot really just move forward. We cannot react in the way that we are used to react. So we will have to turn a bit inward to be a bit more retrospective and introspective. And this will be more important, of course, when Mars goes into Cancer, retrogrades back into Cancer, where it's already been between September and November of 2024. And we will have an opportunity then between January 6th and the end of February, while Mars is retrograde in Cancer, which is in opposition with this Capricorn energy, to really work on something that we've been avoiding probably for a lot of time, and suppressed anger will be coming up, and we may be faced with anger and aggression and violence and passive aggression too, and we will have to to look within, to try not to project these things, to try not to blame it on others, to try not to find excuses, but to really just sit with it, do whatever you want, just don't run away, don't close your eyes, don't escape it, because this is really powerful opportunity now, because Mars is not retrograde so often, especially not in Cancer, where it's in detriment. It doesn't really feel good in Cancer, but that's why it's very powerful to work with it and to process that whole emotional drama, because Cancer in fourth house and moon is a lot about family, home, emotional stability, childhood, inner childhood traumas, memories, our roots, our place of living, our house where we grew up. And Cancer and Capricorn, this axis is a cardinal axis, and it's about our mother and father, our inner world and outer world, our emotional stability and our financial stability, our private life and our public life, our home and family, our career and purpose. So we may feel a bit torn apart between these two polarities, but let's remember, polarities are actually one and the same thing, but just different degrees of it. So we are asked to bring these polarities in cohesion, to see them as something coherent and inner connected. And Mars will be in Cancer until the 18th of April, so it's a long time, and we will be working with it. And this new moon is an initiation of it. We are planting seeds, and we are also reaping what we have sown. This is Capricorn and Saturn. You are going to reap what you have sown. And we are now planting these seeds, and we are going to see where this is going to take us. And we are asked to definitely work on our emotional strength, on building our emotional stability, emotional maturity, not to fall into those traps of having infantile needs, where we are always asking for external fulfillment, and we are definitely always externalizing our happiness, our fulfillment. We cannot externalize this happiness. This is like a never-ending story. It's the void that cannot be filled, and it shouldn't be filled. It should be felt. So this is the void that we have to feel, not to avoid the void, but to feel the void, and to turn inward, to look for our inner gifts, and to receive those gifts from our higher selves. New Year and Christmas time and Capricorn, the Santa Claus related to Saturn, and the gifts, which is based on punishment and award. We are breaking these codes now and these programs, and we are able to truly receive those gifts, to really be able to be receptive for those gifts, not because we were good or something, but because we are just aware, we are present, we are here. And when we are present, we get those presents. And it's very simple, and we are receiving these gifts from higher selves. It's time for renewal, for rejuvenation, for refreshment. It's new moon. It's about new beginnings. It's about new stability, new maturity, new level of responsibility and self-discipline that is very, very important. And we are changing structures within ourselves. We are restructuring ourselves. We are remastering ourselves. But we may also we may be faced with preoccupation with financial security, with material security, with earning money, because this is Capricorn, and it's very earthly material energy on one side, but of course it has the other side, which is very much focused on self-mastery. And we may feel a bit again torn apart between the need for spiritual strength and emotional strength and financial power and financial security. So we are going to see many things changing in the society, in the world that we live in. But this is just the beginning that is going to trigger some much bigger changes that are about to unfold in the next many years. And Saturn, the lord of this new moon in Capricorn, is actually, Saturn is known as Kronos, the lord of time, also the lord of karma, the god of agriculture, but also this is the lord of the rings, Saturn, and Saturn has the ring, as you know. And there are many layers in this time and space, and Saturn is very, very important, and new moon in Capricorn is very important. And Capricorn and Cancer, these two axes are the gates through which we ascend and descend, the gates of man and the gates of God. And this is about you truly mastering these gates and being able to tap into self-responsibility, self-discipline, reliability, structures, rules, regulations, foundations, building things, investing in something that is long-term, being persistent, doing the hard work, but not as in a fanatic way, but doing the hard work that we know why we are doing it, being practical, being efficient, gaining success, but really asking ourselves, what is success for me? What is success for you? And this will tell you a lot about where you are right now in your life. This is about authority figures, and do we have authority within ourselves, and how are our relationships with our authority figures, with our parents, with father, with brothers, with male authority figures in life, with patriarchy, with bosses, with superiors, with anyone who has that dominant role in our life. And also looking at our own authority and how are we using or abusing that power and authority over others. We are definitely going to be faced with our wrongdoings and right doings, and seeing that it's not about wrongdoing or right doing, it's just about really being conscious of your actions, because there are consequences and we may be faced with those consequences now. But this is new moon and we are going to see something with new eyes. It's like a reality check. It's a sobering moment. Saturn is always sobering moment. It's like, wake up. And we are going to see things in a completely new way. And we may be faced with some of those consequences, but we have to face them. It's not time for excuses, for putting responsibilities on others, but it's just, like taking full responsibility for where I am right now, for what am I feeling right now, what am I going through right now, and not focusing on anything else, just, fully taking responsibility for everything. And that is very hard, because it's much easier always to blame it all on other things, on external things, on the system, on society, on politics, on the infrastructure of how the world functions. Okay, it may be wrong, it is, but we are not doing things right, and we have to start from ourselves. This is where the true battle begins, and we are asked to be wise elders, to truly become that wise elder within ourselves, to become the wise sage, to be committed, to be serious about this, and to be centered. This is about the contraction and crystallization, and about hardening something. We are putting the pressure on something. There is a lot of pressure wherever there is Saturn in Capricorn. There's a lot of pressure, but without pressure there is no release. We have to be pressed, and we may have been suppressing a lot of things, and what we have been suppressing is now coming up, and we have to face those things within ourselves. And this is also something we are going to be faced with, our own limitations, and with limitations that we receive from others, and with suppression and obstruction. Very, very powerful energy that invites us to crystallize our wounds and pain, and to really see that this is where we gain true wisdom, where we can climb that mountain like a true sea goat and reach the top, and really say, okay, it was completely my decision, it's my intention, I planted these seeds, I'm reaping what I have sown, I'm taking full responsibility for everything that I experience on this journey. And this is, my journey, and my journey is not responsibility of anyone else, because, we have to truly be willing to become our own authority and to become our own parents, because the whole world is entangled in that blaming game, and it's very tricky. It's always there, it's always catching us. It's a very sticky net, and it can be limiting and controlling, and we are going to feel it. This is, the descent and crystallization of spirit into matter. And this is, the holy grail secret of Saturn. And there's a great quote that says, in the beginning, Kronos, the Titan, ruled the entire ether. And this star, the far-seeing gods called the Shining One. And this is about the Saturn. The Shining One, even though it's always represented as black and something hard and heavy and, the strict teacher, the torturer, there is a secret there. There is alchemy also, because Saturn has the power to turn lead into gold through that pressure, just as diamonds are created under the pressure, just as we get the olive oil when we press those olives. And whenever there's a great pressure, our essence comes out. We may feel under a lot of pressure, but we should allow that pressure to really squeeze out the essence from ourselves. And this is the time to apply the knowledge learned in Sagittarius. We had new moon in Sagittarius, and now we have new moon in Capricorn, and it's time to apply that wisdom and knowledge that we have learned. And if we don't apply the knowledge, then that's the sin. There is no sin actually, but when we don't apply the knowledge that we own and that we have learned, now the knowledge must be put to work. We have to walk the talk, protecting ourselves from the world, of course, but let's make sure that we protect others from ourselves too. And this is what really demands that we become self-disciplined and responsible and mature. Because when we are ignorant, we can hurt a lot of people. And we have to put some conscious effort into that. And, success comes through challenges and tests, and we all know that. And this is the energy a little bit of a beggar and the prophet. And Capricorn owns the key to knowledge of earthly spirituality. Because Capricorn is, earthly energy, but it encompasses a lot of wisdom. And Capricorn part in us knows how to finish the process of reincarnation. Because through the Cancer, we descend into this material realm. Cancer, the fourth house, womb, the mother, emotions, and birth. And Capricorn is about self-mastering, that this is like the birth, this is where we enter the gates of this material realm, and Capricorn is where we master it. And, we have to know the goal of the path, and, to work in silence, to last in time, and to learn to live in solitude. This doesn't mean a loneliness. Solitude is something much different from being alone, from feeling lonely. In solitude, we truly can hear ourselves, our true voice, and tap into that wise sage selves. And Capricorn is very grounding energy. And of course, it's cold, it's slow, it can be calm and steady, and also methodical. But there are a lot of difficulties and sadness related to Capricorn and Saturn. And with our body parts, with our bones, with our joints, knees, teeth, all these things related to Capricorn and Saturn. So let's be more careful when these body parts come into question. And, Capricorn is often identified with the pen, satyr pen. And then we have the story of Peter Pan, who never grows up. And we definitely have to grow up, and we shouldn't stay stuck in that game where we are eternal child in the behavior, but we should be eternal child in the spirit. This is what we have to understand in the right way. And pen is also very powerful. Satyrs are playing that flute, and legs of goat and Capricorn and horns are always related to Saturn and Capricorn. So pen is very powerful, and wherever we have pen, we have a huge confrontation with the shadow side of ourselves. Pen. We also have Pandora's box and Pantheon, and Pandora's box will be opened for many of us in a new way, and we will definitely have to go through everything that this box brings to us, and to accept the gifts regardless of whether we like them or not. But when Saturn is playing that flute, these are symbols of harmony of spheres. So if we can hear that melody, if we can understand the process of confrontation with our consequences, with our actions, with what we have sown, then we can really hear the music of spheres. And Saturn is the father of Jupiter, and Saturn carries that sickle and is known as the god of time and death. So we may be faced with the power of time and death too. And Saturn is also related to Shiva, god of creation and destruction. Shiva, the destruction principle that really has to be present, because these are three main forces that created this whole material realm, and that's creation, destruction, and maintenance, the Holy Trinity. And the Capricorn symbol has also the fish tail, and this fish tail talks about our primal wounds, primal memories, our prehistoric memories. This fish tail that Capricorn has comes from the bottomless pit of oceanic depths, and we carry that's our subconsciousness, and then we have to bring it up to the top of the mountain. And that's also the story of the Kundalini energy that rises from the bottom of the spine and has to be brought up to the skull, to the place known as Golgotha, the skull and the pineal gland and the pine trees and the new year and the Christmas tree, the pine tree. This is all very much related, and this is where the gifts are. If we are able to truly come from the very depth and deal with our subconscious fears and subconscious patterns and ancestral karmic patterns, and if we are able to walk with them, to face them, to integrate them within ourselves, to become whole and to come to the top of the mountain with that, then we can really get some powerful gifts there. And we are about to become newborn, newborn babies related to new year. And we know that Saturn is many times illustrated as an old man eating baby. And this is just the story of renewal. This is not some dark and scary story where Saturn is truly eating his children, but it's the story of renewal and shedding of old skin and letting go of the old. It's understanding cycles, understanding that there is time for everything, and that we have limitations in this life. We have limited time that we can be without breath. We have limited time how long we can be without water, without food. We have limited time how long we can stay awake without sleeping. These are, earthly, universal limitations and laws that we cannot break. We have to accept and understand that there are some limits, and limits have to be honored and respected. And Saturn is also related to the stone and the Holy Spirit. And this is the stone of wisdom, the philosopher's stone, the sorcerer's stone, materia prima, closed and opened cube. Cube and hexagram are always related to Saturn. There's a lot of deep symbology there. And the cross, when the cube is opened, it creates the cross. And stone and hex, Pandora's box, bind and bound and boundaries, all these things, Capricornian and Saturnian, we will be faced with some of those things, and we are asked to see what's in that box, and to unfold the box, and to see the cross of matter, the cross of matter, and to see that we are the cross. We as human beings we are the cross, we are the symbols, we are all symbols of everything. All the symbols that we know are actually representing us, human beings, our bodies, our souls, our spirits. And it's time to really understand that we are much more than just these physical bodies. We have much more responsibility towards our higher selves. We have so much responsibility towards this life and towards elements, towards earth, water, air, and fire. Now, so these elements need to be respected. We have to see them for what they are. And something may collapse during this time, because Capricorn is also related to the Tower of Babel and the House of Cards that can be easily collapsed. And this collapse is really good because it will allow us to reorganize and rebuild things in our life, to reschedule, the center of the power from the bottom up rather than top down. And, we may be walking on some rocks now, because rocks are related to Saturn, and goats are usually in the Rocky Mountains climbing and jumping, and always in some isolated mountain, always on rocks, because Saturn is really related with rock and the goat. And when we talk of the rock, we have to remember the rocks, the stone tablets on which the 10 Commandments were written, but also the emerald tablets of Thoth and Hermes Trismegistus. This is where the true wisdom lies, and it's not just some stone. As I said, it's the philosopher's stone that cannot be found physically. This is something that we build inside of us, and we have to go deep down and become aware of that fish tail. It's not just the sea goat that climbs the mountain to attain the goal and be successful, be seen, be noticed, be respected. No, it's much more, it's much deeper than that. And this stone is always related to spirit, because it's said that the Holy Spirit resides in the stones. But we see stones as something that is not alive. And we should start perceiving stones in a different way now, even those physical ones, because they are symbols. They are great symbols of the wisdom and spirit. And Saturn is always represented as an old man, and Saturn is also the lord of the winter. And even though in southern hemisphere is the summer, these are things that are happening within ourselves. And this is why the Santa Claus comes from the north. It comes from the north, and this is when the time of time of the year. This is why it's aligned with everything. And that is why it is written that the old Saturn is actually, Santa Claus, and he is related with those solar forces that enter through the North Pole into the planet Earth, which are cold at that time. And Saturn is known as the Holy Spirit, and it brings the new solar life that eventually will spring with the advent of the Christ within the womb of Mother Nature, that in winter return into its virginity. And this is the story of great transformation and metamorphosis. This is the cosmic Christmas, the solar ritual of life in nature. And the whole nature creates this ritual, and we together with it. And Saturn is, everlasting spring, symbolized by the pine tree that is a tree always green in winter. It's green in the winter time when everything is dry and nothing is growing, but the pine tree is green and represents the eternal youth, the eternal rejuvenation, the eternal renewal of life. And that everlasting spring is precisely the inner spring that we have to awaken inside by utilizing the forces of the Holy Ghost. And we have to understand that the nature tells us the story of how this universe is created, destroyed, and recreated all the time through different seasons, different cycles, different things that we celebrate that are left in certain traditions in the whole world. Like this new year, of course, many things are twisted here. Many things are demonized. Many things are shown in a way that is not right. But we have the right to know. And this new moon in Capricorn has really a great power to reveal some of that truth to us. And the influence of Capricorn on the individual is related with melancholy. So many of us may be faced with melancholic feelings and nostalgic feelings. We may feel a little bit gloomy and a bit down and a bit low. And that's all normal, that's all natural now, because we are in that time of the year. No matter where you are in the world, no matter if it's summer or winter solstice, this is something that is happening beyond our control. And of course, besides the pine tree, one of the trees related with the sign of Capricorn is the weeping willow. So we may feel a little bit like a pine tree, the green, the eternal renewal, and a little bit like a weeping willow. So it's all good. We just have to go through it, to allow those feelings to pass through us. And winter solstice is also known as Yule, and this is Christmas and Saturnalias, and the colors related are red, green, and white, and this is the festival of inner renewal. These are the colors that talk about renewal, new birth, transformation, and we are about to get some really powerful epiphanies about where we are right now within ourselves. And also on the 6th of January, this date is celebrated as Epiphany in Christendom, and it's linked with the visit of the Magi. And this was original date of winter solstice in Egypt, 6th of January. And still we have in Orthodox religion, this is the day of the Christmas, the day of the Christmas Eve, the 6th of January. But these are all very, very astrologically powerful events that create changes on our earth. This is when elements are changing. They are getting new qualities, different qualities. Water is changing, water in rivers, water in oceans, water in lakes. Also earth is changing. The quality of earth is completely transformed. The air is completely transformed, and the element of fire has different effect also. So this is also happening within ourselves, in our bodies. Those elements and the way we receive and put them out is being transformed now. And this start of the solar year is a celebration of light and the rebirth of the sun. In old Europe it was known as Yule, from the Norse Yule, and this means wheel, the wheel of time, the wheel that just keeps repeating, like reincarnations, like eternal renewal and comeback. So instead of just repeating something, instead of just getting into the same old that majority of people do, we are learning how to renew, how to refresh, how to regenerate, how to really plant those new seeds, how to set new intentions. And when word solstice, winter solstice or summer solstice, means to stand still. It's a pause, it's a turning point. And primitive men really believed the sun had died, as he could detect no movement of the sun in the sky for 3 days. And these are the 3 days between the 22nd and 25th of December. This is when the sun stands still. This is solstice. And it's been seen as the sun is dead. This is linked with the story of the Christ and resurrection after 3 days. So after 3 days, the sun starts moving again, and it's resurrected. It's the renewal of the God that is related to the sun. And just changed the sun. The sun is the sun that gives us the light, with the sun, like the Son of the Father. And these are, all these religious stories are always related with the sun. And the priesthood told the pagans that the sun, Christ, was born on the 25th of December, just like their sun. And they told them that the sun had been dead in a grave for 3 days and then was resurrected and ascended to heaven, just like the sun. So the sun rises high on the horizon and the days become longer, and it's the resurrection. And these are very, I won't go into the whole story because it's really big. We should have like a separate video on all these things. I just told some very superficial things now about the whole story. And this is the time when the culmination of darkness is happening, and it represents the victory of forces of darkness over light. And it represents extinguishment of fire, from which only embers and sparks are left, and this is the spark that will fuel the fire in the next cycle. So this is the time when the culmination of darkness is happening. But we know whenever there is culmination of something, we know that then something else, the different extreme comes. So if it's culmination of darkness, we know that the light is coming, and this is what is celebrated. And this is why winter solstice has been so important in every tradition. And we see this in every story of gods. We have Mitra, Persian god, also the same story as the Christ, and Attis, and many more. All these stories of gods are pretty much the same everywhere. And this is the story of the sun and the Capricorn season and the resurrection and the solstice, when the sun stands still. very, very complex story, but as I said, I won't go into details there now. And as I said, this solstice was celebrated as something called Yule, and Yule means wheel, and this wheel was the wheel of the chariot of Odin, the Nordic god. And Odin is bringing the sun back to life, and this is another dead god being revived. And this is a time, of gift giving, of pine trees, of dying gods brought back to life, and candles, and all these things are like rituals where we, give our blessings to ourselves and to the sun. And the sun has three main attributes, and this is, life, light, and warmth. And out of one light, three lights come out. One gives birth to three, and these are three worlds, and this is the Holy Trinity, and three aspects of the sun, and three aspects of everything. There is Trinity in every process that we have in this life. There is Trinity within that process, and one always makes three. So there is oneness in that Trinity. This is what we have to understand. From one comes many. This is the story of the Creator, or the divine energy, or call it whatever. So from the one comes many, and we are those many, but we are also one and whole. And we are learning to live within these limitations. We are learning to accept these limitations with the energy of Saturn, within the energy of restrictions, and to learn to sow things in the right way. Sowing seeds. What are we going to do with those seeds? What kind of seeds are we going to plant? Really ask yourselves these questions, like, what seeds do I want to plant now? And let's learn to plant those seeds in the right way. And Saturn rules karma, so we may be faced with our karmic consequences in a new way now, the consequences of actions. And we are learning a lot about consequences. These are the rules of this earthly realm, and the ruler of this earthly realm is Saturn. And we really need to see how are we going to celebrate this energy. And the sun and the moon together say and ask us, do you realize that there are consequences of your actions? And we really have to see what kind of actions are we going to make now, especially with Mars being retrograde now. And the ruler of this new moon, Saturn, makes square with Mercury. Saturn is in Pisces, Mercury is in Sagittarius, and Saturn is also making square with retrograde Jupiter, and Saturn is known as the father of Jupiter. So we may be involved in some kind of conflict. We may want to go over the top, to go into extremes, and to do something that we may regret later, or to say something that we may regret later, or maybe to say too much, or we may feel prevented from saying, we may feel censored to say what we really want and feel. But then this opposition with Jupiter, between Jupiter and Mercury, may force us to, just say it and go and exaggerate. So let's just practice patience, because this Capricorn and Saturn is a lot about being patient, being calm, having dignity and integrity in all of it, whatever it is that we are facing. And we may feel oppressed by someone, or we may feel triggered by an authority figure. We may feel like not respected or less worthy, and that's where we want to react and act in a way that is not really wanted. And we are facing these consequences, as I said. And we may be faced with our own greed or with the greed of others. And we have to see where do we need to bring ourselves into line. We have to be adults, responsible for our actions, maturity, grow up. We just have to grow up and to have disciplined mind. It's very important, disciplined mind, and to see what is crumbling, what is not serving us well. And it could also be something physical, of course. But we have to look at the higher order of things. And Saturn reminds us that it's not just about me, it's not just about you. We are part of larger reality. And we have responsibilities towards others. We have responsibilities towards the world, towards this life that is given to us, towards this life that we have agreed to live. And this is very practical energy and practical world, practical work, sorting things out, get things sorted out. It's about bringing simplicity into life. And it's also a lot about learning to say no. Saturn is a lot about saying no. It's often easy to say maybe. Don't say maybe if you want to say no. And if you must say yes, say it with an open heart. And if you must say no, say it without fear. And realizing consequences of all our actions. And Mars retrograde is perfect for inner reflection, for finding peaceful, quiet place inside of us. And, writing is good, solitude is good, silence is good, keeping things straightforward. And if you really want to say no, say no. What are the things that you are resolving, to do that will make your life more useful, more productive? And what seeds are you planning to sow? There is a virtue in accomplishment and dignity and self-respect and wisdom, endurance. This is the sea goat energy. Climb any mountain and cross any ocean. Integrity, commitment, and vows. Signing contract with blood. This is that kind of energy. And what kind of contract are we signing with blood? These are long-term projects, and long-term projects with ourselves, with our lives, with how we want to live, what we want to change within ourselves. And Capricornian commitment is very great, and to accomplish the great work and to bring in more dignity, more integrity, more self-respect and endurance, and to really face that reflexive wounded child. But we may get triggered with something. It can be a very heated moment, and the anger can be very present. Or we can hear an information, have an impulse to defend, and just if we feel a need to really attack or defend, or be in that fight or flight mode, we can make a break for a moment and say, thank you, I understand. No matter what kind of situation it is, we are learning to say thank you, I understand, but not in an arrogant way, but truly, sincerely, to really feel that and to feel the release and relief by doing that. But we may be faced with, childish behavior. We may not like what we hear. We may sink into denial because we don't like what we hear. And this is childish behavior. We have to grow up and take responsibility. This energy is shining a light in darker corners of our psyche. And let's not get caught up in dramas of the past. Let's we may feel very drawn into that past, into that need to just get lost in the past. But let's try to give our best not to get caught up in the past, and to be gentle with ourselves, to understand the wound, to feel where we are vulnerable. And if there is something that has weakened you, Capricorn reminds you to think about the long term, and to see what we have accomplished, what we have healed, how far we've come, what we have moved through, and allow that to strengthen us and move forward. These are repetitive conditioning experiences that we are facing now, And this is what make us create rules, automatic responses. And we really have to look at those automatic responses that are instructed through restrictions and negative reinforcement, limitations, restrictions, penalties, punishments. We have to do the work of deconditioning, and it takes maturity, strength, capability, and confidence to go against the grain, to break those damn rules, And we may see now that there is more spirituality in just spending time with another human being, watching the flower, watching the sunset or sunrise, listening to birds singing, rather than, I don't know what kind of work that we have to do in order to prove something to ourselves or others. And we may be faced with certain pain where others don't recognize our gifts, and this is again childish behavior. If we don't get what we want, if we feel that others don't recognize our gifts and our efforts, this is when we are faced with pain and with betrayal. But it's time to liberate ourselves from this, to recognize our own gifts. It's our job, not others' job. It's not job of somebody else to recognize your gifts, but it's our job. It's my job to recognize my own gifts and to honor them, to respect them. And, not looking for recognition from others. We are putting pieces back together. Healing of past torturings. Is this a healthy approach to myself? This is what we are going to ask ourselves. And, we owe it to ourselves to do something drastic, to reinvent ourselves. And there is deep yearning and longing to be something we've always wanted to be. But we owe it to ourselves to heal ourselves, to be there with ourselves, and to work towards accepting myself as I am. We have to ask ourselves, do I reject myself or do I accept myself? But demands that we put in ourselves may be very tough and hard, of course. But, we have to be consciously aware of what we want to fill in that void that we are avoiding. And are there more things that we have to release? These are, karmic endings and beginnings. And we really learned what needs to be healed. We really learned something. This is the end. We are faced with what we have learned, and now we have to see how we apply what we have learned. And we are going to see something that may be repeating, and we may just say that, this is it. I've been through this. I know this. I have learned this. I don't want that in my life. I don't want that part of my life. I'm done with that part. And give ourselves new powerful energy that helps us build what we want as part of our next level dreams. We may be asked to sacrifice what we don't need. Let's just see what we don't need anymore, and let's sacrifice that which we don't need anymore. And it may be hard if we are attached. And we may see, some past versions of ourselves and see that, I am not that version of myself anymore. Whatever the healing was, whatever the crisis was, drama, things that was triggering or hurtful, I feel it, I know it, and I don't want to repeat it. This is gut level knowingness. And we are feeling, that fresh blood, fresh adventure, fresh desires. Sometimes, of course, guilt can be present too, but sometimes guilt needs to be there. It depends very much what kind of guilt. Natural guilt, organic guilt has to exist. It is inbuilt, but not the guilt that is imposed onto us in many different ways through our growing up, through our childhood, with our friends, families, society, schools, education, politics. That is all imposed guilt, but there is organic guilt that many of us are truly going to feel it, but this guilt will be related to what we have done to ourselves. And of course, then we are going to see the light of what we have done to others, because we were doing it to ourselves. And we are going to see that all these generations that are alive right now are born into a culture that is dying, society that is dying, and religion that is dying. And this is an incredible transformation. You know, we are all living in the world right now that is collapsing, that is transforming the whole system. And we are able to turn something that is our biggest embarrassment into something that we are proud of. And this is very powerful gift, very powerful. And this is a time for some kind of collective healing, even though there is no such thing as collective healing. But we are all, not really everyone, but at least those individuals who are ready to take responsibility for themselves will be able to walk through that healing process. And many karmic lessons are coming up, so we don't go through same things again. And there's nothing to be afraid of, really. We just have to prioritize ourselves, and this is extremely important, to prioritize ourselves. And there are great couple of quotes that I found for this new moon that are for me aligned with it. And one is from Jane Austen that says, "When pain is over, the remembrance of it often becomes a pleasure." Then there is one from Khalil Gibran, and it says, "When I planted my pain in the field of patience, it bore fruit of happiness." And one more, Marianne Williamson, it says, "Light is to darkness what love is to fear. In the presence of one, the other disappears." And with this, I would end this forecast. I love you all and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye and Happy New Year.